What is going on YouTube? Greetings from my inside cabin here on the beautiful Ruby Princess. If this is your first time joining me, I've been traveling full time since 2019. Every year I travel a different way. My first year of travel, I lived in a different country every 30 days. Then COVID hit, so I bought a van and did the van life, RV life throughout the United States for a year. Then I hopped on a plane to Thailand. I did some motorbiking around Thailand for a year. And this year, I've lived on nothing but cruise ships. I have 73 days left, I think, of cruise ship living before I hop on a plane, head over to Asia, and do more 30 to 60 day country hopping. And I'm going to integrate some cruise ship travel and some other types of travel in there as well. But one of the most common questions I've gotten over the last almost 5 years is, how much does it cost to live this lifestyle? And I've been meaning to put videos together like this. I just haven't been organized enough. But I made a resolution that I was going to start being more organized, tracking my expenses and sharing them with you. I know it's something you're interested in, and no matter what type of travel I do, I'll be able to make these videos and you'll be able to see the differences between what does it cost to cruise full time? What does it cost to live in a country like Thailand for 30, 60, 90 days? What does it cost to live in a country like Iceland for 30 days? So this video will not be a first of the month till the last day of the month video. In the future, I am going to do them that way and prorate them. But for this video, I'm going to share my last 30 days. It just worked out really well. I've been on 3 10-day cruises. So the expenses you see here are going to be from the day I started my cruising 30 days ago. So it's going to be the last 30 days of expenses, so about a month. And you'll see how much it cost me to live on this cruise ship for the last 30 days. I'm going to be using my trusty iPad here, and I'm going to share my screen with you. I'll show you the receipts so you actually can see the breakdown of what these cruises cost. And I also have a nice little graphic that I'll show you that'll break down all my other monthly expenses. When you're cruising, a lot of your expenses are included in the cruise fare. So the graphic won't be hugely diverse this month, but in the future, when I start traveling more international, it'll be a little bit more diverse and you'll see other things. But there are things on here, that monthly expenses that I have that are separate from cruising, that I figured I'd share with you as well. And you'll see how much it cost me to live this last month on nothing but cruise ships. So let's jump into these first set of receipts. Okay, so we're gonna start with my itinerary so you can see what I did on these 30 days of cruising. Like I mentioned, I repeated this itinerary 3 times. So 3 10-day itineraries, a total of 30 days. You might be asking yourself, Kevin, why are you doing the same cruise over and over again? That's just kind of how it worked out. I'm on this ship for 103 days. So my first 30 days were the same 3 cruises, but starting this cruise, the one I'm about to start right now, and for the next 73 days, it's completely different itineraries. We start with a Caribbean cruise where we're going to all the saints like St. Thomas, St. John, and the ABCs. And after that cruise, I do a full Panama Canal transit from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then after that, I do a California wine cruise where I go up the coast of, or go up the entire West Coast, not just California, Oregon, and Washington State, all the way up to Vancouver. And then I go from Vancouver to Hawaii, and then from Hawaii back to Vancouver, and then I start a 21-day Alaskan cruise. So it's going to be varied a lot from this point. I didn't mind the 30 days in the Caribbean and the Panama Canal because it's nice and warm while everybody's freezing where they are. All right, let's jump into the cost of the cruise. This first receipt you see here is for the first cruise, and I'll share why there's no cruise fare on here in a little bit after I share the 3 receipts. So stick around for that. But I'm just gonna go over how much the cruise cost me first, and then I'll tell you why I didn't pay a cruise fare. So you'll see here that taxes, port fees, and expenses are $500. You'll see a miscellaneous fee right here. It's $200. And that is the deposit you have to put down when you book this kind of cruise, and I'll explain that more later. You are actually refunded that deposit in onboard credit, which I used to pay for other things, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But all in, this 10-day cruise costs $700. $500 for taxes, fees, port expenses, and that miscellaneous fee, which I'll go over a little bit later how that works. You'll see on here that I got onboard credit. So anytime you do a cruise, you're almost always gonna get onboard credit. I got two kinds of onboard credit this cruise. I got some onboard credit for being a veteran, and I got onboard credit for a future cruise credit. Okay, so I did a terrible job explaining onboard credit in my original first take video. So I figured I'd tell you about onboard credit from the atrium here and try to make it a little bit more clear. So there are tons of ways to get onboard credit, not just being a military veteran. That's one way. Another way is to own the Carnival stock. Carnival owns Princess, so if you own 100 shares of Carnival stock, you can get onboard credit up to $250. You can also buy the future cruise credit, where you go and you pay $100, then you get $100 off the cruise you book, plus onboard credit from $15 to $150, I believe it is. And you can also get onboard credit from the different deals you book, and a travel agent sometimes has access to onboard credit that they can add to your cruise. So there's a ton of different ways. You don't just have to be a veteran to get onboard credit. All right, back to the rest of the video. And I don't subtract that from the cruise fare because I actually spend that on board on things like internet, coffees, stuff like that I'll explain more later. So the next one will look exactly the same, except for the dates will change. It says February 18th to February 28th, and you'll see it's the exact same price, the exact same onboard credit, so we don't have to spend too much time on this one. And then the next one, exact same thing. It's the exact same cruise, like I mentioned. It's $700. You'll see there it runs from February 28th to March 9th. Today is March 10th when I'm recording this video. And you'll see that everything else is the same, $125 onboard credit. So the total price of this cruise for me for 30 days was $2,400. You'll see in this monthly expenses, I just listed that as housing because that's what it is. And we'll talk about more about some of the expenses on here for my month. So you'll see dining out is $0. When you're on board a cruise ship, all your meals are provided. There's no reason to spend any money. I didn't spend any money this month on food. You'll see transportation. So that was my Uber from the airport to my hotel the day before my cruise started. So you might ask yourself, how come there's no hotel fee and no airline fee on here? I've mentioned this in many videos, but I use the Chase Sapphire Reserve credit card, and they give me a ton of points, and I use those points on flights and hotels. Neither the hotel nor the plane cost me money. That's why you don't see it in the expense report here. The next category is cell phone. I have a $50 cell phone plan with T-Mobile, which gives me access to use my phone in 215 countries. When I'm in the US, Canada, or Mexico, it's just all 5G, normal T-Mobile coverage. When I'm overseas, I only get 3G. That's still good. I can still use maps and get an Uber and stuff like that. But I always pay $50 extra for the month, and I get their international plan, which gives me 15 gigabytes of data, and that's plenty for me. So my cell phone is usually about $105 a month with T-Mobile, but it works anywhere in the world that I want to use it, and I like that simplicity. All right, so the next item on the expense report is travel, which was $0, like I mentioned. My hotel and flights were paid for. Healthcare, so I am retired military. I spent 20 years in the US Navy, so I have TRICARE for life, which cost me $15 a month. Pretty cheap. I know a lot of you are like, oh, I wish I could have that. Health insurance is so expensive. If you haven't watched the YouTube channel Grounded Life Finances, check them out. They travel full time. They are 50 years old and they pay for their insurance out of their pocket, and it costs them about $250 a month. They have a whole video about it, but go check out their channel and you can see how you can get pretty affordable healthcare as a full-time traveler. Now, groceries. So you'll see groceries listed here for $30 a month. I actually went and bought some things to bring on the cruise. I brought some Fufu coffee creamer so I would spend less on coffees on board. So you'll see here, I have my Silk Almond Creme Brulee creamer with me, and that saves me $5 a coffee. I used to just use Onboard Credit, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So the next expense is entertainment. You're on a cruise ship. You don't need to spend any money on entertainment. There's all kinds of shows, comedians, live music. You're pulling into a port every other day usually, so you can go out in town and do all kinds of cool things for free. If you watch my port videos, you'll see that I don't usually take an excursion. I just walk off the ship and see what kind of trouble I can get into. And so my entertainment expenses are zero. Shopping is zero. I haven't bought anything. And other, nothing. So you'll see here my total expenses for the month, 30 days, living on a cruise ship, is $252 total, which I think is a pretty good deal. All right, so let's talk about why I don't have any cruise fare expenses. Okay, so I did a terrible job explaining that on my first take, so I figured I'd come down to the casino and tell you my casino story from the actual place it happened. So before I started my 1 year on a cruise ship, I took a trial cruise run actually on this ship. So you guys asked me to film some of the casinos, so I came down to this very casino and I put $50 into a slot machine. I subsequently lost that $50 pretty quickly, but at the end of the cruise, I got a little envelope slipped under my door that said, hey, on your next cruise, you have $150 free credit. So that meant I could take $150 down to the casino and put it into the slot machines. So this was December of 2022. Cruising was just starting back up again, and they were trying to encourage people to go cruising. So I kind of got lucky in that respect. So I went to my next cruise with my $150. I went down to the casino. I put that $150 in a slot machine, and I won a little mini jackpot. It was like $1,200, somewhere around there. So I took my money, put it in my pocket, said, yay, gambling is great. I ran into the YouTubers Para DJ on the cruise, and they said, hey man, we cruise for free on Princess and Carnival because of free casino cruises. I know you got that $1,200, but you should consider putting it back in the casino and seeing if maybe you get some of these free cruise offers. So that's what I did. I ended up playing that entire jackpot in the casino. It took me a while to get through that, by the way. I was up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I racked up a bunch of casino points. And then at the end of the cruise, I got another envelope slipped under my door, this time for $250 casino credit. And I was like, well, that wasn't worth it. It cost me $1,300 to get that. About 10 days after my cruise, I got this email that said, hey, book a free inside cabin with us and get $150 or $250 onboard credit. I was like, oh, great. I got a free cruise out of it. So I went to book the cruise and I went online and I saw all these cruises. Every cruise under 21 days was $0 for an inside cabin. And I would have to pay the port fees, taxes, and gratuities, as well as put down a $200 deposit. So I did that. I booked it. And then I went back into the search engine to book some more cruises, and I saw that it was still $0. And I was like, what's going on here? So I went and read the fine print of the email, and it said, every offer you get, you can book 3 cruises. And in the next month or so, I started getting all these casino deal offers. With every one that I received, I was able to book another cruise. So once I got to the cruise ships and we're on those cruises, I was like, how long is this gonna maintain? And so I was watching this channel called Cruising with Mark, and he was talking about how to maintain your free cruise eligibility, and it was basically by gambling. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play my free credit, and anything I win with the free credit, because when you play free credit, every time you win, it converts to real money. And I was like, I'll play my free credit and all my real money. And at the end of the cruise, whatever onboard credit I have left, I'll put in the casino. And sometimes that was $200, $300. Princess lets you use your onboard credit in the casino. Some cruise lines don't, but Princess does. So that was my strategy, and I've kept that up till now. I always put my free play into the casino, and anything I win from my free play, and then whatever onboard credit I have left, I play in the casino, and that's kept me in the casino system. I don't know how long that's going to last, but it's lasted for like 9, 10 months. So I'm still getting free cruises, and I'm going to take advantage of it as long as I can. You might be saying to yourself, well, Kevin, I am not going to gamble and I'm not going to get these free cruises, so the life you're living doesn't apply to me. Well, before I started getting casino credits, I actually was able to book cruises for under $100 a day all in, and I'll show you now how I did that. So I made this video called How to Cruise Cheaply, and this was before I was getting casino deals. And at the time, I was able to find solo cruises for $50 a night all in. So that included taxes, port fees, and gratuities, everything for about $50 a night, which would be about $1,500 a month in cruise fare. Now every cruise wasn't $15 or $50 a night, but if you can stay at $100 a night or under, then you're talking about $3,000 a month. If you go up a little bit more, then you're talking about $4,000 a month, which when everything is included still isn't a bad deal. But I'll show you really quickly. I won't go super in depth on this, but I'll show you really quickly here on my iPad what I'm talking about. So I use this website called Cruise Plum. A lot of you have heard me talk about it many times. It's featured heavily in that video, How to Find Cheap Cruises. But you'll see here that there's a ton of cruises that have a cabin cost per day of as low as $63 a night even now. So I'll scroll through here and you'll see a ton of them with MSC. You'll see some on the Regal Princess. You'll see some on the Majestic Princess. So a lot of Princess on here, a lot of MSC, and you'll just see them keep going and going and going and going and going. There are a ton of cruises on here for under $100 a night, which will keep you at that $3,000 mark. Now I know what you're saying, like, hey, these itineraries are kind of like specific itineraries. Some of them are transatlantic, some of them are trans-Pacific, things like that. Well, what you do is you find these cheap cruises and then you do back-to-back cruises that may be a little bit more expensive. You combine them and that'll bring your cost per night down. So if you're booking one of these 60 a night cruises and then you go book another 120 a night, you're still going to be at that about $100 a night range, and you'll be at that, $3,000 a month, all inclusive, all expenses included, cruise life. So if you use a tool like this, you can definitely take affordable cruises that probably cost you less than your current life. Okay, so one more look at my monthly expenses here. So you'll see this month of cruising cost me $2,572. I think that's a pretty good deal. That's one of my cheaper months. I'm pretty excited about it. If you enjoy these type of videos where I share my monthly expenses and what it costs me to live my full-time travel life, let me know down in the comments and I'll do more of these. Thanks for watching. See you next video.